All right, we're diving into a really powerful sermon from Alana Tariq Jamil today. It tackles a massive question. Is this life we're living the real deal, or is it just a test for something else? The sermon draws this incredibly sharp contrast between our world and an eternal promise. Let's get right into it. So, everything really starts with this one idea. This is the core of the whole thing. It kind of challenges that constant chase for a perfect life, you know? It suggests that maybe, just maybe, we're looking for it in completely the wrong place. So, if this world isn't our real home, what is it?
Well, if it's not our ideal home, what is it then? The sermon offers this really compelling way to think about it. This world, our life, is a test. It's an examination paper for every single person.
I love this analogy. Think of your life like it's a timed exam. You get a certain number of years to fill out that paper with your choices and your actions. But here's the thing. When that bell rings, and that bell is death, the paper is snatched away. That's it. Whatever you wrote is final. There are no do-overs, no extensions. That's the test of the dunya. You know, it's so easy to think that we can somehow control the outcome of this test. That if we just have enough power or plan everything out perfectly, we can guarantee ourselves a good life. But the sermon tells the story that just shatters that whole illusion of control. So get this, a caliph, one of the most powerful men alive, decides he just wants one single perfect day. No bad news, no interruptions. He locks himself away in his palace with the person he loves most in the world. And in this really tender, loving moment, he feeds her a grape. And that's when everything just falls apart. That very act of love becomes the cause of a tragedy. The grape gets stuck and she chokes and dies right there. His perfect day instantly becomes the worst day of his life. And this right here is the whole point. For all his power, all his wealth and authority, the caliph was completely helpless. He couldn't do a thing. His grief was so intense he couldn't even let her body be buried for 3 days. It's just a heartbreaking reminder that you can't control this world, no matter who you are.
Okay, so from that story of total worldly despair, the sermon makes a hard pivot to the ultimate source of hope. If this world is defined by its flaws and imperfections, then the afterlife, Jannah, is defined by absolute, total perfection.
I mean, this just lays it out so clearly. It is a world of opposites. Every single negative thing we experience here has a perfect, positive counterpart in paradise. You've got sickness, it's replaced by perfect health. Old age, nope, eternal youth. That heart-wrenching grief the caliph felt is replaced with a joy that never, ever ends. And of course, death itself is replaced by immortality. And we're not just talking about improvements here. The sermon makes it clear that these worldly problems are completely removed. No sadness, no getting old, and get this, you don't even need to sleep. You're just in a constant state of pure, joyful awareness. So okay, taking away all the bad stuff is one thing, but what about the good stuff? How does that change? Well, the sermon describes experiences in paradise that are, frankly, beyond what our minds can even grasp. And it uses a really simple example, fruit. So just picture it, you're in paradise, and an angel brings you some fruit, and you look at it and think, oh yeah, I recognize this. This is the same fruit I had before. It looks completely familiar. But then the angel says, wait, there's a personal invitation here from Allah himself. He's asking you to just try it. It's not just about the food, right? It's about this incredible honor, this direct, personal care being shown to you. Now, to help us wrap our heads around what happens next, the sermon throws out this wild hypothetical number. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that in your personal part of paradise there are 100 million different kinds of fruit, and every single one has its own unique, perfect taste. And this is where it gets absolutely mind-blowing. You take a bite of that fruit that looked so familiar, and what you taste isn't just one flavor. You taste the distinct, perfect flavor of all 100 million fruits, all at the exact same time in one single, perfect bite. I mean, we can't even begin to imagine what that's like.
All right, so we've talked about sensory experiences like taste, but what about relationships? What about the people, the companions in paradise? Well, they're also elevated to a state of absolute perfection, completely free from all the limitations and impurities of earthly life.
This chart really breaks it down. Here on Earth, our bodies have needs, they decay, beauty fades. In paradise, beings are described as totally purified, their beauty never fades, it's eternal. The sermon paints this incredible picture. The light from a single fingertip of one of the heavenly companions, the Hur, would be so bright it would make the sun just disappear.
But then, and this is so important, the sermon adds a special detail for the faithful who came from this world. After describing that unbelievable beauty of the heavenly companions, it says that a righteous woman from earth will be made 70,000 times more beautiful than them. It's an incredible statement about the value and the reward for having gone through the test of this life.
So, you have this temporary, difficult test on one hand, and this unbelievable, eternal, perfect reward on the other. So what do? How are you supposed to direct your energy in life? The last part of the sermon gives us a really clear practical guide.
This is the big takeaway. The sermon explains that God basically tells us to move at different speeds for different things. For your job, for making a living, the command is to go forth, a normal, steady pace. For prayer, it's hasten, pick it up a little. For getting to paradise, it's a race, you should be competing for it. But for reaching God Himself, the command is something else entirely.
The word is flee. This isn't a race anymore. Flee. Just think about what that word means. You flee when your life is in danger, when you're escaping something terrible. This sermon is saying that everything that is not God is a potential disaster, a calamity that you should be running away from with everything you've got.
And that's what it all comes down to. This is the final question the sermon leaves us with, and it's a question for every single one of us. When you look at your life at this hierarchy of urgency, from just going forth to literally fleeing for your life, what are you really truly running towards? What's the finish line you're sprinting for? It's definitely something to think about.